A knife attack at a North Texas restaurant. 4 people injured, the suspect dead. Now at midday, we have new details on just what happened. Thank you for joining us this Thursday. I'm Dia Wall. A violent week in North Texas continues today with yet another attack, this time in Richardson overnight at Good Vibes Bar and Grill on Buckingham Road. Our Chris Sadeghi is joining us live with what we've learned so far about what happened. Chris, good midday.
Dia, Richardson police say their officers shot and killed the man when he refused their commands to drop his weapon, a weapon they say he'd already used to injure people inside the restaurant. They got the call around 10 last night about a man threatening patrons at Good Vibes Bar and Grill on East Buckingham Road. When they arrived, they say they saw a man armed with a knife standing outside, all while several victims were inside the restaurant. Richardson PD says their officers repeatedly ordered the man to drop the knife, but that he refused, and 2 officers fired upon him before they went inside to begin helping the victims. 4 people inside the restaurant were injured and taken to the hospital to receive treatment. The man who police shot was also taken to the hospital, where he later died. The owner of the restaurant posted on Facebook to say the staff was shaken up and they will be closed today before reopening tomorrow. We hope to get more details from Richardson Police, including the identity of the man who officers killed, as well as an updated condition on those 4 victims who were inside the restaurant. Dia, back to you.
All right, Chris, thank you for that update. This morning, we now know the name of one of the people killed in the deadly shooting in Carrollton. The Tarrant County Medical Examiner identified one victim as 63-year-old Sung Rae Cho. A second victim's name has not been released. Police say a 69-year-old suspect opened fire at 2 different locations because of business deals gone bad. A total of 5 people were shot. Leaders in the Korean American community want others to know that this was not a hate crime or a random act.
We will work together, support one another, and move forward.
The suspect in this case, Seung Ho Han, was captured after a short chase at the H Mart on Old Denton Road. He's being charged with 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and 2 counts of capital murder. A judge has now unsealed an alleged suicide note left by Jeffrey Epstein after questions were raised about his suicide in jail. Meanwhile, a Trump cabinet official has now been questioned about the Epstein files. Here's ABC's Andrea Fujii.
We are now getting our first look at the cryptic one-page note purportedly written by late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein before his first suicide attempt in jail. The note reading in part, "They investigated me for a month, found nothing. It is a treat to be able to choose one's time to say goodbye. What you want me to do? Burst out crying? No fun, not worth it." Epstein's former cellmate said he found the note in a book days after Epstein's suicide attempt in 2019. There's no confirmation Epstein wrote it. At the time, he told a psychologist, "I have no interest in killing myself." But less than a month later, he hanged himself in his cell before he could go on trial for sex trafficking.
Please step to the side.
On Capitol Hill yesterday, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick testified before a House committee about his ties to Epstein.
Why did you keep in contact with Jeffrey Epstein after he pleaded guilty?
During closed-door testimony, Lutnick acknowledged interacting with Epstein 3 times, including a 2012 visit with his family to Epstein's Island, years after Epstein pleaded guilty to sex crimes. But several Democrats claim Lutnick dodged their questions and demanded he resign.
Howard Lutnick is a pathological liar who is enabling the most egregious cover-up in American history.
He was evasive, nervous, he was dishonest.
But committee chair James Comer insists Lutnick was transparent.
This is a habit of the Democrats on this committee coming out telling you all stuff that was said that was not said.
Republicans say they'll release a transcript of Lutnick's interview at some point. Former Attorney General Pam Bondi is expected to testify about the Epstein files later this month. Andrea Fujii, ABC News, New York.
To a developing story out of England now, where police arrested a man for weapons possession near the home of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the King's brother, who lost his title amid controversy over his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Norfolk police say officers responded to a call about a man behaving in an intimidating manner. No word yet on if the former prince was home at the time. New this midday, let's bring you a live look at DFW International Airport now, as the airport board is meeting right now for the first time since the Spirit Airlines shut down. The issue is not on the agenda, but it could come up in discussion. Our Luke Clary is at that meeting with an update.
Days after it suddenly shut down, you can still see the branding for Spirit Airlines and the kiosks here at DFW's Terminal E. This morning, the DFW Airport board met to talk about the airport's future, and I spoke to CEO Chris McLaughlin. He shared his sympathies for the employees of Spirit Airlines and put this loss into perspective when it comes to the airport's future.
Let me say very emphatically, not diminishing again the impact to the employees of Spirit. In the ecosystem of DFW, Spirit was operating out of 2 gates. We're currently building 40 new gates. We'll have over 200 gates when that capital program is built. So it's a relatively small impact, and we expect to see significant growth in DFW over the next several years.
Later today, we'll have more from my one-on-one with the CEO and more on what the loss of this low-cost carrier will mean, not just for the employees of Spirit Airlines, but for everyone who flies. Reporting from DFW Airport, I'm Luke Clary.
With Spirit Airlines now grounded, Frontier is moving fast to pick up the passengers who were left behind. The airline adding new nonstop flights from DFW to New Jersey and Southern California, and those flights start this month. Now, new developments in the deadly hantavirus outbreak linked to a luxury cruise ship where 3 people have died. Health officials say dozens of passengers remain quarantined, and several states are now monitoring travelers who have returned home to the U.S., as ABC's Rena Roy reports.
Officials are racing to contain the deadly hantavirus outbreak that has killed 3 people who were on a luxury cruise ship. Dutch officials today said more than 24 passengers originally left the cruise ship without contact tracing, nearly 2 weeks after the first passenger died on board. Those passengers now being monitored, including several in U.S. states, Arizona, Georgia, and California.
We're getting reports of suspect cases or potential suspect cases. These are alerts, as we call them. Some of them have had reported links to the ship or passengers on the ship. All of those will be followed up with the relevant authorities in each country.
Health officials now suspect the first victim to contract the virus picked it up in Argentina before getting on that ship. In mid-March, she'd visited a landfill during a bird-watching tour, and officials suspect he contracted it from rodents. He likely infected his wife. There are now a total of 11 suspected cases, including a KLM flight attendant now quarantined with mild symptoms. Officials say she had contact with the first victim's wife, who died a day after the flight. 82 passengers and 6 crew members from that flight now being tracked by the World Health Organization. The WHO says a Swiss man who returned home tested positive for hantavirus yesterday. He remains hospitalized. World Health epidemiologists say this is not the next COVID-19.
But I want to be unequivocal here. This is not SARS-CoV-2. This is not the start of a COVID pandemic.
Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
There are so many questions about this deadly virus, and we don't talk about it much because it's pretty rare. To bring us up to date on the deadly virus, we're joined by our medical expert, Dr. David Winter with Baylor Scott & White. Dr. Winter, get us up to speed. What is the latest that you have in terms of data on this outbreak?
Yeah, this is a nasty virus. In some countries, like Argentina, the death rate can be up to 40%. Now, only 3 deaths so far. Husband, 70. His wife, 69, and then a non-related 28-year-old gal. But they shut down the boat quite early with her, and people were quarantined, which is good because the incubation period is several weeks. So some people may have been exposed but not yet have the disease. Dia?
Dr. Winter, what are the symptoms of hantavirus, and how do you diagnose it?
Yeah, it starts off with head cold-like symptoms, sore throat, cough, wheezing, fatigue. But then it rapidly progresses, and that's what hantavirus does. There's no way to test for it except with a blood test, a very specific blood test, and that's very, very accurate. Now, let me tell you though, there's 30 or 40 different strains of hantavirus. The worst is in Argentina and some other countries. Other places it can be milder. So it depends on where you get it as to how bad it is and how long the incubation period could be.
Now, how do people come down with this virus, and how contagious is it? Because I think we've had reporting that it's not generally transmitted between humans, like from person to person, but I mean, this is something that we've reported is being looked at now.
Yeah, it's very uncommon to go from person to person unless there's very close contact, like the husband and wife. Typically, we get it from rodents, from rats, from the rat urine, the rat droppings. So that's where it typically comes from. And the concern is, there's not many cases in the world right now, but as we have more humid, warm areas where rats can grow, we may see more of this condition going forward. So hantavirus is a bad virus, and I guess the best advice I could say, stay away from those rats.
What can be done to treat this virus, Dr. Winter?
Yeah, we don't have really good treatment. In fact, if people come down with this, they need support with oxygen, with breathing treatments, sometimes blood pressure support. It's just general things, but we don't have a specific drug for this right now. So be careful out there. Hantavirus is not very common, but be careful when you get around rats for sure.
I just want to calm a few fears before we let you go, Dr. Winter. A lot of people are saying, oh my gosh, not another COVID-19. You heard it in the story leading into our interview here today. Very different situation, very different virus. Can you kind of explain to people that this is still a very, very low risk?
Yeah, so 3 deaths. And if you look at all the deaths that happened last year in Argentina, it was 101 only. So not very many. So it's a very uncommon disease right now. And typically you get it from rats in very humid, dry area, hot areas where they tend to congregate. So we're not seeing much. It's just 3 deaths. So I think we need to not be overly concerned about this. Just be cautious when you can.
Dr. David Winter with Baylor Scott & White, we so appreciate you as always.